Hello and welcome to the Fit and Free podcast. This is a podcast for women who want it all, to feel strong and confident in their bodies, as well as enjoying a sneaky mug on a Friday night. I'm an exercise physiologist and sports nutritionist, here to teach you how to achieve your body goals without food and your body controlling your life. So let's jump in. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Fit and Free podcast. I hope you all had the best Christmas. I hope it was full of food and laughter and friends and family and of course presents. I hope Santa was really good to you. It's so wild that Christmas is over and like New Year's is in, just a couple of sleeps. It's so crazy how fast time can really go. I'm super excited for the new year. We've already got our travel plans all booked in and 2023 is looking really, really fun for us. As you already know, if you're a listener of the podcast, we're flying to South Africa on the 17th of January. Then from South Africa, we're going back to Bali. We're spending 4 months there. And then in May, we just booked our one-way ticket to Amsterdam, which is so freaking exciting. If you guys don't know, my partner Niels, he's actually from Holland. So he's 100% Dutch and his family lives over there. So we're going to be spending some time with them, which I'm super, super excited about. I've been to Holland once before and I was there for 9 months, but that was only when I was like 21 years old. Now, almost being 29, I'm super excited just to experience it in a different way. So excited to eat the cheese, ride the bikes, and just, be so free in and around in Europe. So that's what's on the cards for us. I would love to know what you guys are planning across 2023 because I feel like it's just going to be a really good year. Let's get into today's episode. So in today's episode is actually a recording of Instagram Live. I sat down with another health and fitness coach called Janna, and she interviewed me. I really wanted to share this conversation on the podcast because we touched over some really, really good topics that's really going to help you guys with your mindset moving into 2023. We covered topics like how you're able to switch your mindset from exercise being a punishment and focusing on burning calories to really focusing on getting strong. How to start creating a positive, healthy relationship with food and how to remove restrictions from your life. We also spoke about getting into the gym and what to focus on if you're, just starting out. And before we get into the episode, I would love if you could please do me a massive favor. If you could please write me a review in the Apple podcast because it really does support my channel so that we can really, really get it out to more people to help everyone heal their relationship with food and their body so they can finally be free and feel confident in their bodies.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a fun little chat.
Oh, my pleasure. I love jumping on and connecting with other health professionals, so it's going to be a vibe. Here for it.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. So for those of you who are jumping on, we are going to be chatting. So the theme, I guess, for my series, the Summer Wellness series, is really around food and fitness freedom, sustainability, enjoyment in our exercise and with our food over the summer period and over the Christmas period, but obviously all of this can be applied to any time of year. But I just find that at this time of year, this is where some of those kind of thoughts come in more around like restricting our food or overdoing it with our exercise and things like that. So I thought it was kind of a good time to have these chats with a few different people. So the kind of stuff that we're talking about today and some of the questions that came through is really around finding that balance and how to, I guess, switch up your mindset and create a bit more inner confidence and self-worth around your food and fitness so that we're not, doing all of these extremes and kind of going round in circles, really. So I think we'll just jump into some of these questions. Hello, everyone jumping in. So I think if we start with maybe if you just kind of jump in, because I know that you have your own kind of journey of how you've come from like your own restriction and over exercising and doing too much cardio and all of those things, and how you've kind of got to where you are today, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's been a journey, that's for sure. But it's like I was like that typical, yo-yo dieter, doing tons of cardio, waking up at 5 a.m. to go for a run before doing my 10-hour shift in the clinic, and then somehow fitting a gym session in there as well, and then like eating like next to no calories. Because for me personally, like my journey was always like, it was so based in and around my own self-worth, because I had none. It was so low that I was getting, that external validation through my body that like if I was the fit one and I was the active one, then I was going to be accepted. So then of course all my nutritional behaviors and like fitness, everything was stemming from those beliefs. So therefore they were so toxic. It wasn't until like I was really able to change that story and like figure out who I was as a person, like start getting that self-worth within myself and accepting myself and internally validating, was I then really truly able to change my nutritional choices and my exercise, because it was no longer coming from a place of, punishment and restriction to make myself smaller. It was coming from a place of like, I respect my body. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Like I get passionate about this because it's like I know there's
go for it.
It's now coming from a place of like feeling so good about myself and feeling strong and feeling empowered and like fueling my body correctly and respecting that and nourishing it. And then of course like the body composition changes that come with that is what I wanted to achieve when I was burning myself into the ground. So there's a lot of internal work that had to go on to fully be able to like flourish into this space where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why I kind of focused more on the self-worth, confidence, and then trying to find that balance in terms of our like talk today, because it is, I think people don't realize how much internal work has to happen with all of this stuff, because there's so many things that have just been kind of ingrained in us from years and years of diet and fitness culture, that we don't realize that there's a different way of doing things and how much of it is actually like internal work for ourselves before we can actually get the results that we want.
God, yes. Oh my God, there is so much conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it is also like, especially with body confidence and self-esteem and all of that kind of stuff, it's all internal work, and we don't necessarily have to change the way our body looks. That's all coming from the stories we're telling ourselves, what we're putting worth on. And those are the things that we kind of need to place more awareness on and realize that that's where we need to have a lot of focus, so that when we do start making nutrition and exercise changes, it's coming from a better place. I think it's the key that underpins all of it.
I completely agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
So some of our questions, there's some really good ones in here. I've tried to keep it short because there were a few. But so the first one is, what are some easy ways to switch your mindset towards exercise from punishment and burning calories to building your body up?
Yeah, I love this question because it resonates so deeply in terms of like, that's how I used to see exercise and that's how I used to use it. It was, oh my God, I ate a brownie at work. I have to go do a HIIT session this afternoon. So if you're feeling like this, I completely like feel you so deeply, because it sucks when literally your whole world is revolved around this stuff and it's so controlling. So one of the biggest things is that I always ask my clients to do is really reflect on like, why are you exercising? Like, why are you choosing to exercise, and really undercover like the reasonings. And is it coming from like that helpful place, or is it coming from that negative place of needing to like change what we look like in order to, feel good enough? So a really good way of distinguishing that is like, when you answer that question, like, what are you saying to yourself? Like, am I exercising to burn calories? And that's a red flag. Am I exercising to, lose weight even? again, I classify that as a red flag, because when exercise is used from a positive place, it's like, it's so much more than what we look like. It's more so about, you know, like feeling good, feeling confident, feeling empowered, but then plus all the flow on effects, right, of like increasing our bone density, increasing our muscle mass, increasing our heart improves. Like it's so much more than just like an aesthetic thing. It's like, it's our health that we're talking about. So that's one way of changing the mindset. And the other thing that I fully believe, it goes back to that thing that you were talking about before in terms of conditioning, because we are absolutely conditioned. And I see it, like I was there for 5 years, you know, the popular gyms, I'm not going to jump names, but we know what we're talking about now, is like they're getting these women to, you know, do these high intensity exercise sessions for 45 minutes and then telling them to eat like 1,400 calories. It's ridiculous. So that's where we're made to believe that this is what we have to do in order to see results. And the biggest thing is, I don't think that many women, like especially if you're struggling with this mentality, is like you've never felt the effects of intentional training. And when you actually train, like when you actually follow a program, when you actually apply progressive overload, when you actually implement like the basic training principles, you actually get stronger and you actually start seeing results from all the hard work that you're trying to achieve. So it's that whole thing, right, of like making sure you're coming from an empowered place, but then also like make sure your training is in line with your goals and actually getting something out of it, rather than just busting your guts for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I used to be like that, where I was just all over the place with my training, and it doesn't feel good, because you're like, what am I actually doing? Yeah. You just feel a little bit like confused and like stuck in terms of, where are you actually going? Are you actually doing something meaningful? And another one that I've seen I've heard recently is still the phrases coming out around gyms and the high intense, the classes and things like that, around like earning your food, or like go hard so that you can have that cookie, or like going hard so that you can like earn your chocolate bar later, or whatever it is, which I just hate it. It just kills me inside. It's still a way to, like, I guess, try and encourage people, but it's not very encouraging at all. Yeah, it's just it's crazy that it's still happening. But again, it's just that conditioning. It's something that's just it's just in the fitness industry. So it's hard to get rid of.
Absolutely. It's just like when you see it for like the X amount of years, right? That's deep down in your core belief system, and that's like someone comes and tells you something else and you're like, what? No. All right. It's an educational battle that I have. Just kind of try and pick the battles, but it's really hard when you know that it's still going on, and you know that like possibly clients are hearing that in the background at gyms and things like that. It's just like, just irritates me a little bit that that it's still that environment, that like kind of gym environment. It's really hard to change. Okay, so the next question was, I guess, how do you remove restrictions and not overconsume that food? I guess for them it's like whatever food is that food. I think that's a good one. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very complex topic, and it's like, for me and for a lot of my clients, it's a lot deeper than just like, you know, giving yourself permission. But absolutely, I'll go there. But the first thing is that we need to think about is like how we're, like, our food beliefs, like how we perceive food, how we're showing up in and around it, and what are we saying to ourselves about it. So it's that whole piece of like labeling food as good and bad, and or that has too many calories, or X, Y, and Z. That's where we need to start changing the story. We need to learn how to look at food as neutral and remove any sort of emotional attachment to it. And then, of course, comes into the fact of giving yourself fucking permission to eat what you want when you want it. And I know that is so terrifying for so many women, because they're like, no freaking way, I'm just going to lose control if I allow myself to eat that chocolate. But then it's that restrictive mentality that is actually the reason why they're losing control. So it's about ultimately building trust within yourself in and around food, because it's one thing to like say just, oh yeah, give yourself permission, but then it's that important next step of allowing yourself to do that, and then utilizing that experience to build that new self-trust that, hang on a minute, I actually do have control, and this can be my new story. Then being able to do that again and again and again over time is then when it can fully shift. It's definitely not something that will happen overnight, and it's definitely something that takes a fair bit of time, practice, and consistency, most importantly, because I see all the time is women go through it and then they get triggered and they just want to restrict again, and then feeding back into that cycle, and then all of a sudden they're binge eating and they have no energy because of that restriction. And it's so crazy because the body is so smart, right? Like anytime we go through a restriction phase, like we reduce our calories or we don't allow ourselves to eat them, what does the body do? We don't stop thinking about it, or the body will decrease our own energy just to counteract like the low calories that we're eating in. And like we're not listening to that because we're so caught up on the fact that we just want to change our body composition so much. So it's complex, right? And I'm
so it is so complex. It's a great question, but it's one of those topics that's a whole host of different things that could be going on. And that's where like having support with those things comes into play, because then you can do that backwards and forwards of talking with your coach or whoever is your support system about those thoughts that are coming up when you're around whatever that food is for you that you're wanting to restrict, but you're trying to allow yourself to have.
Yeah.
And it's just about being more mindful around when you're eating and trying to like give yourself the space, because we're often like eating on the go or eating while we're watching TV or things like that.
Yeah.
So it's also about giving yourself the space to like sit and eat your food and be mindful about what's actually going on and what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of comes into it as well. We're just eating on the go and we're not really taking that time to be like mindful about what we're eating and how we're actually talking to ourselves. And that's how those pathways and those cycles happen in our brain, where we're telling ourselves we can't have this, and that's over and over and over again. So we kind of need to do something different to be able to change it into a more positive mindset and cycle and new pathway.
Yeah, actually, and it's like people underestimate the small little things that we can do each and every day in terms of mindful eating. Like that's going to have a massive impact on how you're able to be present and enjoy the food and stop when you're full and satisfied, in comparison to just like going off and being not even there in the moment. So I think that's so important as well.
Yeah, especially when you're eating the foods that maybe you used to or want to restrict, having that like mindful approach to eating it, so that you can actually listen to the thoughts that you're having, what your body's telling you. If your body's telling you, yep, I feel full, I feel satisfied, you're actually able to connect with and be in tune with those thoughts and those feelings, rather than just eating the whole chocolate bar mindlessly and not realizing that you're actually like feeling really full.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this kind of goes into the next question, which is where to start with creating a positive relationship with food and your body. So it's we've already kind of been touching on this.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking about it, and there's definitely some important things, I think, in terms of new education. Education in the space of nutrition is huge, because I know there's a lot of people that just lack basic nutritional knowledge, and therefore that's really influencing like their nutritional choices, because like a lot of the times, right, like that's where like the bad foods come in, because it's been marketed as like, these are the foods that are going to make you gain weight and X, Y, and Z, when really it's actually like just some carbohydrates. So it's really, really important, I think, that people need to learn what macronutrients are, like what are carbs, what are fats, what are proteins, because at the end of the day, all food is made up of carbs, fat, and proteins, but just in different like ratios, right? And a really good example of this is like for example, like forever, like a box of shapes. Oh my God, I could not eat that. That was so bad. But then I was looking at like just a nutritional label on it, and like I was looking at a serving size, and that's like 20 grams of carbs. And for me personally, to maintain my weight, like I can eat 270 grams of carbohydrates in a day. So like having 20 grams of carbs is like nothing. So all of a sudden, it's like these foods, you can see that it can easily fit. And I'm not saying like go and eat all these foods and make up all your calories. That's not it. That's not the vibe. I'm still saying absolutely eat enough fiber, making sure you're eating enough fruits and vegetables, get your micronutrients and minerals in. But I'm saying is that we can absolutely eat these bad foods, and I don't even want to say that. Like we can eat all these foods within our healthy diet so easily. So once you have that education, there's really nothing to be afraid of when you learn about portion size and how you can fit it into your day. And the other thing with that is like women need to know their maintenance calories, because like 95% of my clients that work with me, I make them eat more, because often we're under eating. So we've got that conditioning is less. It's that classic move more, eat less. Which is, yes, that's really, really great information for like a lot of the population. Absolutely, don't get me wrong. But like in specific in females who are like, you know, eating 1,200 calories and training 5 days a week, that is the last thing that those people need to hear. So
yeah, absolutely.
Education, huge. Educate yourself, guys. Or work. And then the next thing is like work with someone if you can. Get help. Because like I've worked with so many coaches, and it's absolutely game changing in terms of it's not just the education that we need, but it's that support. We need someone to pull ourselves out of our own stories that we're telling ourselves, because half the time the shit that we're saying to ourselves is not true, but we don't know that. We need someone else to pull ourselves out and be like, hang on a minute, like I'm just going down this spiral again. And sometimes it's just so hard to shift that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like probably prior to like maybe 3 years ago, I kind of had the same like problems where it was just all in my head, and I didn't really like think I need to like have my own coach and somebody that I can like bounce off, because it was like I know what I need to do. I know, you know, like I know all these things, but it's not about that. It's the combination of like knowing what you need to do, but it's also about being able to talk with someone about the things that are coming up, you know, day to day or week to week that aren't there all the time, but they're the things that might derail you. And then you go back into that cycle of stopping because of whatever reason. And then you stop for a little while and then you're like, oh, I need to get back into it. So you do all of the things again. So it's having somebody there to help you in those phases where it's really tricky and you're trying to like navigate those old cycles and those old patterns of stopping and just feeling really guilty and really frustrated and down about yourself, and then coming back into it again from that disheartened place. But having somebody there in those moments to help with that backwards and forwards, to help you create a new pattern and a new pathway, and help you realize those thoughts that are continuously like coming up in those moments, which is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because I was exactly the same, right? Like my ego is so loud in terms of like, I've got a freaking exercise physiology degree. Like I've studied this shit for like 6 years, but then like there was still a part of me that was so deeply rooted of fearful of weight gain that it just completely controlled everything that I was doing. So that's why it's like, yes, no, like you know the things, you can look online and you can like look up a calorie calculator, right? Like you can look up an exercise program, but that doesn't change what's going on in your head. So that is the biggest thing. And I completely agree with you.
All right. So yeah, I guess those last couple of questions are like the starting points, I guess, the awareness of the thoughts that are coming up and knowing that you need someone there, you need a support system, you need a coach, you need somebody to help you start to navigate those things. And they're going to be small little steps. It's not trying to take a bite of one whole apple at a time. It's like those little bites. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of people, when they like come to me as a coach, and probably to you as well, is they're wanting to do all of the things. And we're obviously usually peeling back to let's start with these basic things, and also we're working on like the mindset stuff. So yeah, it's all that stuff is like, it's a big, those are both two big questions, and the little things that you can do to get started is the awareness, and then yeah, having that support with the journey, I guess, and knowing that it is going to be a bit of a journey.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to say to that as well is like a really good place to start with in all of this is starting to do things that terrify you because it's going through those moments is when you're fully going to be able to evolve and grow. And if you're not pushing into the fear, then you're absolutely not going to be able to change your relationship with food on your body. Like things, for example, like if like terrified of eating more, right? Like I know that's a really big fear of a lot of people because of the deep rooted like what happens when you eat more is you gain weight, which is not necessarily true, but it's about being able to take action and do that, and then building the trust, and then probably being triggered again, then being able to sit through that, and then utilizing that perceived failure as then a lesson to be then able to grow again. Because I know a fear can take control of a lot of people and stops them from doing so much, when it's really those moments in time where they want to give up and they want to, you know, don't want to push through, they want to shy away, is when they're fully actually going to be able to grow and change. So guys, do shit that scares you.
And it's stepping out of that comfort zone, because like that's just what happens is we just get comfortable, and it's not that we don't want to change, it's just that it's easy to stay in that comfortable space. So it's getting used to getting yourself a little bit uncomfortable and being able to show yourself that you can do these hard things. It just takes a little bit of discomfort and getting used to that little bit of discomfort in the process.
That's right.
All right, so the next one is around Christmas and New Year period specifically. So what are your main tips around balance with food and exercise over this Christmas, New Year holiday time?
Yeah, I love this because I remember like a few years ago, I was making cocktails with my brother, and I was like, internally, I was like, I can't drink these. Like, there's just way too many calories in them. And then I would make up, oh no, I don't want that. And he'd be like, why? Like, why not? And I'm like, oh, I just don't feel like it. But internally I was like, holy crap, all the calories, X, Y, and Z. And then it would convince me, and then I would do it. And then, of course, riddled with guilt. And it's because of the fact that I wasn't giving myself permission to have things if I wanted them. And I didn't know how to trust myself and trust my own choices in what I wanted. And that's the biggest thing that people need to learn, is choosing to eat things because they want to. Not because, you know, it's in front of them, not because everyone else is doing it, not because it's the time of year. It has to come from this internal place of your own choice and that own trust in terms of, no, I'm eating this because I really want it, versus, oh, those people are still eating it, so that means I have to keep going, for example, or I have to finish my plate because I'm not allowed to like leave the table, for example. So it really comes down to, number one, of course, giving yourself permission to eat everything that you want, to find that balance, and then also trusting yourself to choose what you want when you want it. Because think about it like this, and for anyone who's thinking, right, like, oh, I can't do that because I'm going to lose control, is like, think back to a time like when you were on holidays and you allowed yourself to eat what you wanted. It's a little bit more indulgent when we go away and we like don't really care as much, and then we're telling ourselves that, oh, just, you know, start again when I get back. What is like the first thing traditionally that you really do feel like when you get back? A lot of the time it's like something light, it's like salad or something, you know, a bit more fresh. And that there in itself is evidence that, like, when you give yourself permission to eat what you want, you don't always want those indulgent foods or those no foods or the ones that you traditionally lose control over. So it's about then building that trust that that can be possible for you all of the time. I know though for a fact that like when you do go through the phase, there's definitely I like to call it like a rebel phase. And it's like when you go through like restriction mentality and finally find this place of like, oh, I'm allowed to eat all these foods, then there is a part of you that is a little bit more rebel than what you would be normally towards towards the end, because all of a sudden you've got all this new food back into your life. You're like, oh cool, I'm going to eat these brownies, I'm going to eat extra mayo and all the stuff that you weren't allowed to have. But then once you ride that wave, you get probably triggered and thinking that, oh my God, this is ruining everything, X, Y, and Z, and all the stories that come up. But then it plateaus out. And then it's just about them being able to trust that process, that kind of what happens. So the biggest tips in and around Christmas is freaking enjoy yourself. Give yourself permission to eat your foods. And then the last thing is the most important. It's not the most important, they're all important. But learn about how to balance your plate. Like, people think about, oh my God, all these extra calories. Just because there's all these extra calories doesn't mean that you have to eat them. And it's and then it's about like, okay, do you know how to like plate up like a quarter of your plate protein, quarter of your plate carbs, and the rest can be vegetables. Like, Christmas Day lunch is a perfect opportunity to be able to balance your plate once you understand your food.
Absolutely. For sure. And I think with a lot that we've been talking about, I've just got kind of another like question that we can touch on is around that topic of self-trust. Because I know that's a big one that comes up for a lot of people. Is how do you actually how to actually start with that, like how that process happens, because I think we just lose touch with ourselves and listening to our body and listening to what we're telling ourselves. And so I guess what would your little tips be for starting that process of like building that trust back with yourself, so that you can then start to see that, oh, I can actually do that, or yes, I can actually do that, and that helps with a lot of these food choices and all of these things.
And that is why like one of the things I wanted to bring up was like leaning into the stuff that's scary, because that's how you have to build trust, because you have to do things that are against what you like quote unquote believe in terms of like, Christmas, all these calories, I have no control. That's your belief right here. You have to lean into that. You have to then allow yourself to, break these quote unquote rules that you have for yourself. And then, then create that small evidence, then that is then your new story. So really leaning into fear. And then the other thing that's really important in building self-trust is really focusing on the small things, like really, really celebrating every small thing that you do towards your goal. Because when people get so focused on the outcome, they forget the fact that they actually, went to Christmas and trusted themselves around the food and didn't overeat and felt really positive and excited about the food. They don't classify that as a win, because that's not quote unquote what the thing that they're trying to achieve. But that's how you build the trust, because all those little commitments that you keep to yourself every time you act in integrity is the way that you then eventually over time snowball into this massive, beautiful self-trust area. That makes sense.
It's a big topic, and the self-trust can go with, everything outside of health and fitness as well. For specifically for fitness, I feel like maybe it just feels a little bit more maybe intangible. Like, I think in terms of that self-trust, because it's more mindset work and it's more things that you would deem as a win or as success or, those kind of things. So I think that's why it gets a little bit tricky with how to build that self-trust in your health and fitness journey, because, it's not looking so much at the external results. It's more the little wins, like you said, enjoying that food when normally you wouldn't, or going to the gym when you didn't really want to, but you knew if you just showed up and did a 5-minute warm-up, you'd feel better and you'd feel more like carrying on, It's those little moments, those are the wins, those are the things that build that trust that you can do all these hard things, you can keep going, and it's not the end of the world if you did that 5-minute warm-up and then went home, or, as like little examples.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just comes down to, I think, as well, like, commitment, an actual commitment, because you can say that you're going to do something, or then you can actually like commit to doing something, because every time you like say you're going to do something and you don't, you can't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But as soon as you actually like start following through and having those commitments and actually doing it, like you said, like going to the gym when you say you're going to, or like, you know, allowing yourself to eat in these social situations is then really going to be able to build that trust with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think along with that, it's making sure that we don't overcommit to things. So that's a big one that people often do, is that they say they're going to do all of these things and it ends up being like 5 or 10 things. And that makes it really hard to commit and follow through with those things. And that's what then derails us and loses that self-trust, because
then
we're trying to do 100 things. Whereas if we focus in on 2, maybe like 3 or 4, depending on where you're starting, if you start with those couple of things that you can actually focus a lot more of your effort and energy and time on, you're more likely to be able to follow through on those couple of commitments, and then that builds that follow through and that trust, because you've actually got a little bit more space to like focus on 2 things rather than 10.
Sure, absolutely. It's because again, we've been conditioned to having like results in like a week or, you know, 10 weeks, and you're gonna like, you know, have everything like perfectly, but absolutely.
So you do all of the things.
Like these habits.
You just do everything, tick them all off.
Exactly. Like these are habits that have built over years, and that's what I say to all my clients. Like, if you're not in this for the long game, don't bother.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, I think I can't remember where I read it, but it resonated with me. It was like, if you're in this for like, you're going to do it for the next 30 days and then you want to sit on the couch and do nothing, you're not in it for the right reason. Right. This is like, this is for your life. This is for, you know, I'm not here to just do a hard out challenge for the next 30, 60 days and then sit on the couch and not do anything for the rest of my life. Like, that's not what it's about. So I think it's changing that mindset of why we're actually doing it and how long we actually have to do it for. So it has to be something that you can do for a lot longer than 30 days.
Absolutely. I'm so big on sustainable approaches. That's it.
And so the last question was more around an exercise and how, like, what to focus on when you're starting out in the gym, or I guess just exercise in general. What are important things? What are those big things to start with?
The first thing I wanted to say to this one is we need to normalize gym anxiety. Gym anxiety is absolutely,
I have that.
It's so real. And why I know that is because, one, I still get it. And
me too.
And like with overworking with hundreds of women, it's like they all feel it. So I think the first thing that we need to like focus on is like first normalizing that. And then we like need to change the conversation, because like it's that thing, right? You go in and then you're like, you know, messing around with the machine weights and you're like, shit, is it the right angle? And put the pin in and you're looking else around you and they're like, oh my God, they've all got their shit together. But when reality that they're thinking exactly the same as you. So if you can like spark up a conversation with someone in the gym to make yourself feel more comfortable, to make yourself, you know, make it a beautiful environment that you're excited to go to, because then it like makes it so much easier than to want to go back. The next thing is like the things that you're doing in your first year shouldn't necessarily, like exercise selection really shouldn't really change even in your third year, right? Stick to the basics because the basics work. And I'm talking about like a lunge, a squat, a hinge pattern, a hip thrust pattern, a vertical push, a vertical pull, horizontal push pull, and then some core stuff, right? Like some of the stuff that I see on Instagram is ridiculous. Just some of these combination exercises, I'm like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. So stick to the basics because the basics absolutely work. All you really need to do is stick to something. Obviously, like there's a whole science to this. Like this is, you know, 4-year degree here, but like doing the same thing for at least 6 weeks and then just trying to beat it every single week. So like if you take your squat, for example, you want to, you know, back squat, it could look like 10 reps, 11 reps, 12 reps, 13 reps, or it could be like 30 kilos, 32.5 kilos, 35 kilos. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the mistake that so many people make. It's like overcomplicated. And then the other thing is doing like too high reps with minimal load. We have to move into the area of like, you know, hypertrophy training, which is 8 to 12 repetitions, especially as a beginner, just to build good movement patterns, understand to learn how to do good technique, and then also loading your muscles enough in order for them to change. And my biggest advice literally to anyone that is starting on the gym is utilizing that first 1 to 2 years of mastering your technique. And that's really what it should be about, because as you get more advanced, it's like you're lifting some heavy numbers and there's a lot of load that's going through your body. So if you don't have that foundation, it's like building a house on sand, right? You're going to collapse and you're going to fail. So take your time, work on your technique, and then focus on your recovery. That is something that's so underrated that people are like, oh my God, especially, I don't know about your clients, but I can't have rest days. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because that's where the magic happens.
Rest days are hard, aren't they? Especially when you like find something you enjoy. I think that's probably like a big thing that becomes more about like you're actually excited to go to the gym, which is an amazing thing. But pulling yourself back and making sure that you're also looking after your body and you're not overdoing it, because then when you do go to the gym next, you're able to do so much more if you've actually had that time to recover, rest.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know about you. I'm excited about my rest days. Like, I love the gym. Don't get me wrong. I love training. But like on those days after like a leg day, I'm like, I can't move. And that's the other thing. Like, you need to be training hard enough when you're doing your exercises, but to give your muscles a reason to change, therefore to need the recovery to, you know, to be actually able to get body composition changes in order to, like, you know, tone up. I feel it was so but important to train hard enough as well.
And I think like you said with the all the like Instagram workouts and things like that, is simplifying it to not a billion exercises. And I think that's what you were saying with like keep it to a select amount of exercises, and the basic ones. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have like 10 or more exercises in one session. It can be, like 4.
I see.
And focus on like your technique with them and finding the right way and focusing on how it feels. And if it's feeling funny, then how can you, alter your like technique to make it feel more comfortable, or just all those little things.
God. Yes. Oh my God.
Instead of all the jumping around and all the like combo stuff and all the
bossy walls and things, I'm like, very cool.
We don't need any of that.
Time and a place,
if
it's good.
Boring, if it's boring and it's not changing, that's good.
That's right. But then you see results, which is the coolest thing. It's like when I was able to do my first pull-ups, I was like, holy shit, like I was training, for 5 years and never able to do something like this. What I've been able to achieve in a year and a half is ridiculous, because I actually train with intention, I have structure, and actually see results. And that's what everyone needs to learn, like when you do that, because everyone's like, oh, I've got no problem with my exercise, like I show up with my exercise, like they go to their group fitness, but I'm like, are you actually progressing? I think you're just sweating.
Absolutely. And that's another conditioning whole thing, isn't it?
But in saying that, I do want to say though, I don't, like, there is definitely a time and a place for group fitness, and if you're just exercising to feel good and stuff, like I'm so for that. Like, absolutely, exercise is medicine. But then if you're expecting a certain result, then that's where the structure has to come in. Always have to say that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's so true. And I think it's about finding what works for you, right? Like if you're happy with your group fitness classes because that environment makes you want to show up and you've got friends that go with you and all of that, perfect, absolutely. But obviously if you're wanting certain results, that's where the exercise science comes in, and that's where you need a certain plan and a structure to be able to see those results happen. So I think it's just, the awareness and the education around what exercise does for that side of things.
For sure.
yeah, that's important to know.
Absolutely.
All right. I think that was all of the questions. Yeah, it was. Amazing. Well, I have just a couple of like last ones because it's Christmas. I have a couple of Christmassy questions.
Love that.
Some fun ones. So what is your favorite like Christmas time food? Not that you have to eat it just at Christmas time, but what do you enjoy?
Oh, that is a hard question. Honestly, like, I don't know what my favorite Christmas food is because it's like, I'm more of a, like, I love the savory, the turkey, sort of all the saladsy, like, throw up a pile of food like this big on my plate. That's, like, my favorite thing about Christmas. It's not necessarily, like, crumbles or anything like that. I'm not a really big fan of, like, traditional Christmas food. I'm just, like, my favorite thing is, like, having a plate, like, this big and enjoying every mouthful of it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm the same. I like the cold meat and all this different salads, and yeah, I love a plate full of lots of different goodies. And what do you have any Christmas traditions? And if you do, what would be your favorite?
Oh my God, wearing my Christmas pajamas and putting up my Christmas tree. I've been wearing my Christmas pajamas since the last week of November. I am like, Christmas, love it. And then I've been doing this thing that I'm going to implement now for probably every year is like Friday nights I've been having pizza and watching a Christmas movie with my Christmas tree lights on, and I am so for it.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing at this time of year is watching movies with my Christmas tree lights on in the evenings. That's my favorite thing to do. The last question, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh my God. I was just about to say, I can't believe it's taken me 28, almost 29 years now to watch The Holiday. And I am like, I know, I'm a Christmas movie fanatic and I've never seen it. And I watched it. And I watched it with my partner and he was like, holy crap, this is actually like the first Christmas movie I actually like. So.
Yeah, that is my favorite. I've already watched it. I think I've already watched that one, The Holiday, like twice this year. I had a new one last year because my daughter was like just over 1. So I watched After Christmas, like a animated. That one's cute. I love that one.
Okay, I'll have to.
That one's like a new
on my list.
Yeah, that was like my new favorite little animated kidsy kind of one.
Oh, I'm for it. I'm for them all. After Christmas, did you say?
After Christmas, yeah.
Sweet. It's on my list.
All right, well, that is everything for our chat. I think it went a little bit longer than I was planning, but that's okay. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me and for helping answer these questions. It was, just a great topic to be talking about, and I think it's a good time of year for these reminders. And, it was so much fun to have a chat with you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
The animated Grinch on Disney is also good.
Oh, good to know.
There you go.
I'll put that one on my list as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being here. I really do love you all. Just a quick reminder that if you're ready to, heal your relationship with food, if you're ready to up-level your nutritional knowledge, if you're ready to start getting strong and see results in your body, then the 28th of December is the last chance that you are able to sign up for the Fit and Free Academy for the next intake, which is in January. So if you're interested, send me a DM on Instagram, or I'm really happy just to jump on a call with you so we can chat things through just to see if you are a right fit. Thank you all for being here again, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.